Welcome back and let's continue with the series of Python by WsCubeTech. I am Nehal and this video will talk about how you can create tables inside your Python. So let's get started. So in the last videos, what we have seen is we have seen how to establish the connection, and once the connection was established, then we created a database with the name, as you can see over here. It was employee database, and we even saw that how you can just view this thing on your MySQL workbench, and even we saw that by using this for loop, this iteration, how you can just get to see the details of which all database has been created over here at your console. And now in this particular video, we'll talk about, now once the database has been created, our next step is to go forward and create the table inside it. So what I will just simply do over here, I will just create a new file over here, Python file, and this time I will name this thing as create table. And you can see this is the new Python file I get over here. Now in order to just establish the connection and all, and in order to import the model, so we'll do that step first. So I will just say that import MySQL dot connector, and once I have imported this module, I want to just make use of the connect method. So I will say MySQL dot connector dot connect, and inside this I have to pass the arguments over here. I will just put this inside my variable name, that is my db, and inside this I have to pass the name as I will say just first will be my host, the parameters, that is the host is equal to, and I will say localhost. Once done with that, I have to create I will declare the parameter as user. So I will say user is equal to, and I will just say that it's root. Once done with that thing, I have to set the password. I have to write that thing. So I will say password is equal to, and here I will just say 1234. And now one more parameter I have to pass over here is nothing but the database, so that when I just call up this connect method, so it will just establish the connection with my already created database. And here I'm just going to say database is equal to, and I will just name my database. So just I'm going over here, I will just copy this thing. This is my database that we created in the last tutorial, so I'm just going to copy this thing. So this thing will just establish the connection with this particular database, because our goal is to create the table inside this particular database. And once done this with this thing, what I'm just going to do is, in order to just make sure that my connection has been established, what I will just say that print my db dot connection id, and I will just say run, and you see I'm getting this thing. So it means that I've established my connection. I will just comment this thing, and now in order to just uh, uh, go forward and in order to create my queries, I have to just obtain this cursor object. So in order to obtain this cursor object, I have to make use of the connection object. So I will say my db dot cursor, and I have just obtained this thing. So I will just put it inside my variable name, that is x, and now I will simply just make use of the execute command in order to execute my queries. And over here I just have to say type the query over here. And now the main thing over here is how you just write the query in order to create a table. So you're simply gonna say create table, and the table name. So suppose I say the table name of it is emp, and we'll say details. So just give that name. So create table table name, and inside this I have to just pass the column name over here. So suppose in my employee details I have this three columns. So the first one is the id, and then the name of the employee, and then the department in which he or she is working. So I've simply say the id over here, and now this id is of int data type. So I've simply say int, because we don't have id accepted in varchar. So I will say int, and what I want to do is I will just set this thing as my auto increment. I will just set this thing as auto increment, and as well as a primary key. So basically, what is primary key? Now, suppose that I'm making this column that is ID and setting this thing as a primary key. So it simply says that the values inside it will be, you can determine it would be unique for each record. Uh, for uh, the This primary key says that if I'm making this primary setting the my ID as a primary key, so the values inside it would be unique for each row inside your table. So that is nothing but the primary key. And auto increment simply means that it will start with one, and it will just, as soon as I just when we will see in further tutorials how you can insert the data inside your table. So in that case, this will be automatically, it will auto increment by 1 2 3 4. So there is no requirement for you to manually just set the ID inside this. So it will just, as soon as you enter a new record inside your table, it will just auto increment automatically. So this is all about the auto increment. So what I'm just doing that I have declared one column inside this my table, which is the name of the column is ID, and I've set it as it is definitely of the data type as int. And now what I'm doing is I'm setting it as a primary key, and I'm making it as the auto increment. Now we'll just move ahead, and I will declare some more columns over here. So say I have this name. So when I say I have this name, so this would be of my varchar, and we'll pass the length. So approximately the name would, it don't goes beyond 20. So I will just put that limit inside this thing. So I have declared now name, the another column, and one more we are going to pass, that is the department. So say I have department. So I have this department over here. Why don't we make it short? So I will just say depart. So I have this department over here, and I will just say that it would be also of varchar data type, and I will just say the length won't increase more than 50. So I will just give that a limit. So I have done this thing, and yeah, we'll just close this bracket. All right, so what we have done over here is we have created three columns inside our table. The name of the table is emp details over here, and I will just simply print a statement in order to just confirm that table has been created. So I will just simply say that uh, the table emp details, that's it. So I'm just going to run over here. So yeah, we have just made use of this thing, so just be conscious while doing this thing. All right, and if I just say, so it says the table emp details got created. And in order to just check that thing, so what you can just do, you can come over here at your MySQL workbench over here, simply say refresh over here, and inside this was already created. This we saw in the last tutorial, that how to create the database. And inside this, just click on this arrow, and you can see over here the table says, and this is nothing but our table, that is emp details. And inside this you can see that inside the columns, if you just click on this arrow and you come over here, so you can see this was the all columns that we created, that is ID, name, and department. So this is all about how you can just create your table inside your database. And yeah, that's all. And now in the next video we'll see that how you can just insert the data inside this table, that is inside your how you can just insert the data inside this as the ID is auto increment, so no need to do that thing manually, but we have to do this thing for the name and the department. So in the next tutorial we'll see like how you can just insert this data inside your table. So we'll just do a quick recap in this thing. So what we studied in this video is all about that how you can create a table. So we created a table, and first we just imported this module, we established the connection, And inside this connection we have passed one more parameter over here, that is nothing but the database. And you need to specify like which from which the name of the database you want to connect with, and I'm just mentioning this thing over here. Now if you just don't give this thing over here, and if you just create execute this query, it will give you an error. So make sure that this last parameter you just include this thing, that in order to connect they establish the connection with your this particular database, that is the database that you have already created. And this will just establish the connection, and then we have made use of the cursor object, and with the help of the cursor object what we are doing is we are just firing the query. And you are seeing this thing, uh, the syntax, or you can just say that the query of for creating the table is nothing but create table and the table name. And inside this we are just passing the column name, that is the id, name and department. And we are given the data type of it, so id is of int, and name is of varchar. We have given the limit over here, that is 20. And inside this department we have again given the limit of 50, and we are making use of this varchar data type. And I have set my id to as auto increment, so that as soon as a new record comes over here it will automatically get increment. So if it starts with 1, so if I enter the 1 value particular record, so it will be done. Then for the second it will just auto increment it for 2, 3 and likewise. So and I've even made it as a primary key in order to just it just says that it has the values, it uniquely has the values, so that in your entire for a row that it has the unique values. So means if you are just setting a particular particular column as a primary key, so the values would be unique for the entire row in your table. So and then we just made wrote this print statement in order to just know that a particular table has been created or not. And we were quite successful in this thing. Now in the next video we'll talk about like how you can just insert the data inside your table. So see you over there.